Welcome to a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments to see the Commissioners page, then click on View Agenda.
Could we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the October 17th meeting of the Lorain County Board of Commissioners. Commissioner Williams has our dog from the kennel this morning.
Now, don't let the gray in his mouth fool you. This is a hyper boy here. Not sure how old he is, but great, lovable dog. Sit. Come here. Sit. There you go.
Oh, he wants to give you a kiss.
He's going to be available for adoption on Saturday, so please come out, support our kennel, take this fine dog home, and definitely make someone happy. So if you have some kids, he can wear them out for you instead of you wearing them, wearing you out.
Good idea.
So, how many dogs do you have in the kennel right now? 32 dogs. So if this one's a little too big for you, come down and you can get one of Miss Kokoski sized dogs. So thank you.
It's cute. He's got 4 little white tips on his paws. 2 years old. Thank you. Commissioner Williams, Madam Clerk.
Under Resolutions, number 1, Job and Family Services Bills.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Investments.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Appropriations.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
No advances, no repayments, requisitions.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Travel.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Bills.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Under the Commissioners, authorize various personnel actions as indicated on the summary for employees within jurisdiction of Lorain County Commissioners.
Mr. Cortez.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner. I do have a potential new hire at Golden Acres. Actually, there's a couple there, and also an option for our, which has been a long-term vacant position with our healthcare clerk. I'd like to discuss those with you in executive session, and also possibly update on what's going on with our labor negotiations. Both of those topics are allowable under the Sunshine Law for executive session, so it acts at the conclusion of our regular board business today. We go into executive session and have those talks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Approve waive the reading of Salem County Commissioners meeting minutes of October 3rd and 10th, 2012.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Notify Lorain County Safe Harbor, Inc., DBA Genesis House, that they are eligible for release of funds in the estimated amount of $85,000 collected as part of marriage license fees and annulments, divorces or dissolution fees pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 2303.201 and 3113.33 through 39 for the year 2013.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Approve and enter in a settlement agreement jointly with the City of Lorain and State of Ohio Department of Development for relief from obligations of an Urban Redevelopment Loan on behalf of South Shore Development Corporation, St. Joe's, Lorraine, and authorize payment of $425,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure, this is only the resolution for the 425. It's not, we're not also including the resolution for amendment of the $120,000.
We have copies of that here. I was going to bring that up next, Commissioner.
Bless you.
No.
I'm asking a question. This is only for the
This is
resolution
the
for
$425,000,
25,
correct.
not including the resolution for the amendment.
No, they're two separate
Okay,
resolutions.
just wanted to make sure. I received a lot of calls, I'm sure you guys probably have too, on the $425,000. This here is basically a workout, and it's a workout is basically we're buying off our debt, or South Shore Community Center's debt. The project is not successful, and if it doesn't go through, the county would be responsible for $675,000. I was working with the state, along with the other commissioners in the City of Lorain, to reduce that debt of $1.35 million down to $850,000. It comes out to basically a $250,000 savings for the state, or for the city and for the county. So by doing this, we basically get off the guarantee for St. Joe's, and we're buying it at a reduced rate. That's what the $425,000 is going to come at. Now, we had some other discussions of where we're going to pay for it, and I think we talked pretty much on the same page as far as getting a note and then putting that in with the maintenance of the facilities in the county. Just want to make sure that we are in agreement on that.
Correct, yeah, that's what,
Yes.
right. I think that's the most prudent way of moving forward on it.
So, to the people that call and ask, well, why are we doing this? Really have no choice. If the center fails, we have to pay the state back $675,000. Through working with the state, we were able to reduce it to $425,000 as far as the share for the county, and now we're able to get off the guarantee with St. Joe's. So,
Basically, the state's taking a short sale.
yeah, that would be a good way of
Basically
putting
how it looks, the state's taking a short sale. Would you like any comments, Mr. Rangel? You're here from the City of Lorain, or self-explanatory? City of Lorain City Council has approved this also?
Good morning, Commissioners. Doug Rangel with the City of Lorain. This is, we're not buying anything. We're simply settling both the city and the state, or city and county's obligation to guarantee this debt. And yes, it is each, the county and the city, will save a future obligation of $250,000 by settling now as opposed to later. So this removes the debt, not only, or the obligation not only from the county and the city, it removes the obligation by South Shore because the balance of the debt will be removed. So there will be no mortgage debt on that facility anymore.
Right. I know you've probably gotten the same emails about, I got one from Brentwood that said, don't bail out St. Joe's, take that money and pay for our bridge. Well, this is not a bailout by any means, as everybody has said today. We basically, not us, but our predecessors co-signed on a loan basically that if, like you would do that on a car and then they don't make the payments, then the car gets repossessed, and we were basically like a co-signer.
Yeah.
And
It's a workout agreement.
it's a
Yeah.
workout agreement, not a bailout. So hopefully the public will understand that and know that we're doing the right thing by taking this deal from the state to remove the debt from St. Joe's. So hopefully a developer can come in there and make it a viable facility for our veterans.
And I think we need to thank the state for actually taking this. It's not just the reduction of this amount, but previously they
Right.
did another $1.35 million as
A
well.
couple of years ago, yes.
So the state has really stepped in. They've helped out with St. Joe's. They want to see it successful, and they've gone through and taken a loss. So
Right.
I appreciate all the work that the state of Ohio has done.
It's not been a
to make
partisan
this-
issue. The last administration was Democrats. They did it. Now this is a Republican administration, and they've done it. So
Yeah.
everybody's working together for the betterment of hopefully that facility in the future.
Doug, we had a talk, and I'm just going to bring it up. I know it's not, I didn't see it on the agenda, for the resolution to amend.
Hang on, let's finish. You got a
Oh, okay.
motion on the floor, Tom.
All right.
We'll go up,
Okay.
we'll do that after.
We'll do that next.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Okay.
Now, if we can bring up from the floor a resolution that was sent over by the City of Lorain in regards to the agreement that was made 2+ years ago with the state of Ohio with some local dollars as a match towards the Clean Ohio Revolving Loan Fund money that would do tear down. There's $360,000 that we negotiated from Mercy Hospital System to help us with our local match. I had brought up a few weeks ago here in this meeting, maybe diverting some of that money, since it is local dollars, and by agreement towards helping with some of the shortfall and/or future costs of operating the center. Now you can have it, Doug.
Okay. Yeah, that resolution, and I apologize, we ended up getting it in late to council, but a council did approve. What they approved was amending the development agreement that was approved 2 years ago, and that spoke with various funding sources for the continued development of St. Joe's. Part of that was where, as South Shore would accept certain pieces of real estate from Mercy, Mercy also agreed to supply $360,000 to match the Clean Ohio Revitalization Fund grant that the City of Lorain was awarded. That money coming from Mercy was to be made in 3 payments. We have received the first payment and we are holding it in escrow. The other 2 payments will be made at the beginning of next year, and the final payment will be made at the end of next year, early 2014. What we are presented to council and presenting also to the commissioners is allowing us to repurpose the $120,000 only that first amount, to be used to continue allowing the center to be open. We are looking at working with a couple of developers who have shown interest. Unless there is additional cash here that can be used to help offset some of the expenses that are continuing to happen there, the facility would likely shut down in the very near future. If we did not have a developer, this would not be a piece of legislation we'd be bringing forth to look at. It is only because we are looking at working with a couple of developers to redevelop this center.
Okay. We got this information. They passed it Monday night. We received it on Tuesday, basically,
Yes.
that this is what was going on. I spoke with you. I spoke with some other people. I'm going to ask the board here not to agree to the resolution. I do have calls out to other entities that I'm trying to get more information on, which I can share with you when they call back.
What's the information you're asking for, Tom? Because I actually was here when the deal was cut. I actually made the phone call to Ed Oley for the match money. So
Well, I'm looking into the developers as far as how true everything is, how quickly they're looking at moving it. And the reason that I'm looking at this is I'm looking at South Shore. This is South Shore's money. Lorraine's holding in an escrow account the $360,000. So while we're going through, South Shore basically defaulted on their loan. That's why it came back to us, and we're now paying $425,000 or $850,000 total. Well, they have $360,000 there. 180,000. I'm looking at 180,000 of that would go to the county. They're looking at $120,000 for operational costs for next year, correct?
Not for next year, for ongoing, for the next
expense.
3 months.
$120,000.
Yeah.
So what I would like to do instead of, and there's another option that we can do, but the first one is amend it where 180,000 of that would come back to the county, so we could use that to pay down from the 425 to 245. Basically, we're using the South Shore's money that they have in escrow to pay for the guarantee that goes to the state. What I kind of look at it is basically we're using public dollars to bail out a company, or we'll do a workout because we're the guarantee, but it's truly a bailout for South Shore, a workout for us. While they're going to take dollars that they have from a private company, Mercy, and use that for operational cost. So I'm looking at, if we get 180,000, we could use that to pay down our debt. Now, Mr. Cortez, I'll bring you in on this. $180,000, what would that do for our transit, for our police department, or sheriff's department, and that?
$108,000 to put some deputies back on the road, certainly, and I could, to be honest with you, if you're asking, you can always use money in transit in
Right.
the airport. We're down
It's-
from
my
millions of
point-
dollars years ago to 50,000 here and 50,000 there. When we're selling the heads, $50 a piece trying to stay afloat, so I understand. I mean,
Yeah, and my point being that we do have money, or projects that we could use this money for. The $120,000 that the City of Lorain is willing to do, they would still have their $180,000 portion, that they could use the $120,000 for operation, or they could put the $60,000 into the operational costs of South Shore, or use it for the general fund as well. I know that's not you, Doug, that would be City Council and the mayor. But I think it's a more fair approach as far as trying to get that revenue to come back. Because like we said, we didn't agree to this. We thought South Shore, or the previous boards thought South Shore was going to be successful. For whatever reasons, they're not. So if they have the money, we should use that $180,000 to pay down the debt, and not get stuck with the full $425 when there's $180,000 out there.
I think there's a two-prong approach here, Tom. The Mercy money, the 360, was intended for doing something with that building. The original intent was the tear down. And currently, for that to even be used with Mercy to give the 360, because if the building goes dark, I don't know if Mercy's going to hold up their end of getting the whole 360. This was a year-to-year payment. They're not required. They said they would for a certain purpose. They've talked to Mercy, you told me, correct, Doug? That he would not object to that money being going over to operations. They don't, the commitment per this is to go towards tear down.
The
there is no
$360,000 per the development agreement.
Right.
The $360,000 is used, has to be used for match for the Corp. If we don't take the Corp, my guess is they're not required to make those payments.
Right. But you're not using this money for the tear down. You're going to be using this for operational costs, and then you're using another grant for the tear down.
It's a but-for. I'm only going to allow us to use, the city to inject its US EPA dollars if we can use this for that. Otherwise, and the only reason I'm doing that is because the US EPA money that I have is a loan. So I need to make sure that that whole facility is redeveloped in some capacity to try and be able to get those US EPA dollars back. That is the only reason we got those funds, is because it was a loan. Now, if we decide that this ends up shutting down, then I'm not putting US EPA dollars in there, because the chance of me getting that money back is slim and none.
Right.
So we'll take the 360, we'll match it, use it as the match with the Corp as was originally intended, and we'll do the demo as agreed with the state.
But if the place is dark, the odds of using the Corp money are going to be, because you're getting no redevelopment out of the purpose of the money.
If this
You
facility
understand,
shuts
Tom?
down,
Yeah,
there's
no, I
still
understand.
Because Mercy's not going to throw the next $240,000 at this if the place is shuttered, because there is no outcome.
Was the topic even brought up to Mercy? Could we use this to pay down the loan for the state? I don't believe that was the case. It was never asked.
Was it asked to Mercy?
Yes,
No, I don't believe it was.
right. But the question was asked, could you use this, transfer it over for operational costs? And they said yes.
Yeah, because we are still, the original intent of that was to match the Corp.
Right, but I'm looking at the city administration, if they continue to use that Ohio EPA dollars, and then they went through and they took the $180,000 of the 360 for operation, they would be able to get that, and they would still be able to keep their income tax that they're getting.
Would the
from
county
it.
be willing to guarantee that the facility is going to stay open?
Right, there, Tom, that's.
The whole thing is this,
intent,
the
to use
facility
the
has to
Corp
stay
money.
open.
Go ahead, Doug.
I'm sorry, the facility has to stay open.
Right.
If that facility closes, there's no guarantee that this Corp even stays in place, because it was a total package that this was going to be redeveloped as still a usable site as a community center. If that facility shuts down, there's no guarantee the state allows us to continue to use the Corp funds for demolition. There is no guarantee there. If that facility stays open, we get to keep the Corp. We need to match it with something. The 360 is there. As long as the facility stays open, I'm willing to say that there is a chance that I could recoup that $120,000 on the property if the facility stays open in the future. I'm not looking towards the other $240,000. I need to make sure that that facility stays open so I can try and recoup the dollars.
All the
Okay?
intents
No,
of
no
our
additional
agreements.
working capital funds going into here. You know, it is still going to likely shut down. Those funds are necessary for us to bridge the gap to get a transition from where we can keep the facility open until we can work out details with the developer to make sure everything is aligned.
How much of the 240,000 do you think you're going to have to go into before an agreement's reached with the developer?
If we don't have an agreement with the developer within the next 60 to 90 days, you know, it likely is not going to work. It's not likely going to work. There, you know, the developer that I've had a conversation with has stated a number of items in which they would come into the deal. The settlement agreement is one of those items. Utilizing the Corp for a strategic teardown is another one of those items. If any one of the, you know, if we don't meet the items within there, the developer does not have an interest,
And then it goes dark.
and it goes dark.
And that's the issue. This money was intended for redevelopment. Every grant, the Corp money was based on a redevelopment, not a shutdown and tear down. You're not doing an urban renewal project.
That's correct.
It's a clean project. This, you know, this isn't where they're going through and just knocking down buildings. This was meant to be a redevelopment. Under the purpose of the granting procedures, you're doing a redevelopment, there's a jobs component. I mean, there was a large package we were working with through all the negotiations a couple years ago. If the place goes dark, and Mercy doesn't have, Mercy's agreement says they'll let us waive the 120 right now for the next 3, 4, 5 months, whatever it takes to
Yeah.
pay ongoing operations. They're not committed to giving the other $240,000 if it's not going to fix anything.
Right.
That's
It's-
correct.
It seems to me that this 120 for Mercy is like the life support for St. Joe's to be a viable community center in the future. If we don't let Mercy's money go for that purpose, we pull the plug on it. I think Mr. Williams and I both had a concern. He mentioned either last week or the week before that you were concerned that the city was going to come back and ask us for operating dollars. And I agreed with you at that point that I wouldn't be in favor of doing the workout and also coming up with additional dollars for operations. So they've actually found a way, instead of using that money for a match, they've made an arrangement with Mercy to use that for operations. So, I mean, you've got to give them some credit. They did not come back to us. They found another way of coming up with operations to keep it alive.
No, I'm just looking at ways to, again, reduce how much we have to pay out.
Not
on
arguing
this.
that point, Tom, the
And-
problem being though, there's no guarantee Mercy's gonna give us this money to do our debt.
The issue with the amendment, though, is, Mr. Innes, I'm going to bring you into this conversation now. We spoke yesterday. Once we pay the $425,000, we're pretty much out of the agreement, correct?
Yeah, the only responsibility of the county with that agreement was to appoint a board member.
So instead of doing an amendment to say that they could use the money, would it be better suited for the county to make an amendment just basically to exit as a partner through South Shore, and then they would be able to do what they need to?
I'm sorry, you have to state that again, because
Basically, we're saying that $425,000 paid, we're no longer a guarantor. We're not going to be a partner with this anymore as far as have a board member on South Shores. If we're not involved in it, they don't need our approval or an amendment change.
yeah, we are on the agreement. They need our approval. We're on the
You're
Right,
agreement.
if we make a change saying that we're pulling out of this agreement, and this is the conversation I was having with Mr. Ennis yesterday.
The first agreement or the second agreement?
The agreement.
The original development.
2010 agreement for the
2010.
$120,000 you're talking about.
Right, so make the amendment that we are now exiting that agreement. Then you wouldn't need a amendment saying that we approve that $120,000. Basically, it just gets us off completely.
You want to amend the development agreement to remove yourself as a partner from the original development agreement, is what it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay. And, yeah, I would have to defer to the.
Yeah, and I don't know the
legal
answer
counsel.
to it.
So
That's
then
why I
we
asked
would have
Mr. Ennis
no
on
say
it
in the
yesterday.
120 or the-
I can't see how we can just exit. I don't know how we can quite exit when we signed off on it and agreed to it.
Oh.
I think just by amending this,
The plan would be is to, as we do get to a new developer, and this is part of the reason why we're not talking about the 240, is eventually a new development agreement with new partners. And I would imagine the county would not be a part of that, as would the state would not be a part of that, as would Industrial Realty Group would not be a part of that. So a new development agreement would have to be drawn up with the new partners involved in whatever that deal becomes.
which would automatically exclude us.
Well,
as being
and
a
again.
Unless you want to be involved.
Well, and again, that's why I was asking Mr. Ennis, can we just make a amendment to remove ourselves from that agreement? Did you have a time to look at that?
Well, an amendment can be made, but then all the parties would have to
Agree
agree
to it
the
again.
amendment.
We still have to do through the legislative process.
And go
Well,
back to the state and
approving
everybody?
to it. This
Yes.
is a clean act. It lets them move the money over. We're basically then disengaging from the St. Joe's process, or South Shore process, and letting the city go forward. I mean, it's almost an automatic, I mean, they fall right after. The only thing we'd probably do is if we didn't wish to be part of the board, would then send a resignation letter from the county, taking our board member off and no interest in, succession.
There would be an eventual dissolution of that
Right.
development agreement, and all the partners would have to agree to dissolve and remove themselves from that, I would imagine. That would be something that would have to come before the county commissioners at some point in time in the future. How fast that can happen, I don't know, and we'd have to make sure that all of the items within that development agreement are going to be resolved, and all of those items are not resolved at this point in time.
And currently, what do we have for board members left? Our ORA's board members have left, so we're down to half a dozen maybe board members. You have 3 from Lorain, 1 from the county,
5 5 selected from IRG.
but they're not there anymore, correct? Haven't they all stepped
Most of
down?
them are
They've
no
left
longer
the
part of
board.
the board. I believe there are 5 board members left.
So there's currently not a quorum, or do their rules allow 5 to vote on actions?
That's a question that their attorney is looking at.
Researching?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I mean. There's
As a
whole
result of
flux
the
here.
recent resignations, yes, they are looking at that issue to see what they can do.
We're currently approving this $120,000 under all the agreements we have. Would allow the city to oversee the operations for the next 3, 4, 5 months, whatever that cost is.
The city would review their
Right.
request
You're
for the
overseeing.
120,000 to make sure that it's in the best interest of the project to move forward.
Correct. You're overseeing it.
Correct.
Okay. And then at some later date would then be on a formation of a new board, and your private developers agreement with whatever you were doing would then let the county exit as board members if we so choose.
Absolutely.
Right, and again, that's why I was looking at just exiting now.
We can't do it without doing the legislative action, Tom. We're a legislative body, we approve, we're part of a contract, and anything that we've signed on, we have to be a party to amending, correct, Jerry?
Right, he's just saying, instead of amending it to allow for this expenditure, let's ask for an amendment to allow the county to withdraw from the agreement.
Right.
In other words, he's saying, let's do what they're saying we'll do in the near future.
Well, why don't we do this, and then we'll draw up and then see what their legal says. If they need that 5th board member, I would hate to pull out our representative to that board in case you need it for a vote as a member of 5 member of a board.
That's correct.
So I was asking, so there can be a vote taken on something. Jerry, would that be I mean, so they have at least 5 board members versus making it 4, or whatever it might be, and while their legal figures out if that's a quorum or not? I mean, I've been in a lot of committees over the years, and we make the quorum whoever shows up also.
Well, I mean, if the other group doesn't show up, how does that work, Jerry?
Well,
Depends on the bylaws.
yeah, we'd have to look at the whole thing. I'm not familiar with those enough to tell you what would happen. Obviously, their attorney's looking at it too, so.
When do you think they'll have an answer on that?
It's something that he is currently looking at. The
Right.
board met about a week ago, and that's one of the things that they're looking at because of travel schedules of one of the board members. They couldn't achieve a quorum, so they couldn't take any action whatsoever. Because this was the 120,000 repurposing that was presented to them at that board meeting, but no action could be taken by them. For the money to be used, we do need to get 6 signatures, I believe it is, on any amendment to that development agreement, and we're just about there. We would, eventually, the South Shore would have to agree to it if they want to move, be able to use that money for the working capital or the operating
So
operations.
really, this is dead in the water until South Shore is able to decide how they want to go, until legal.
Have to get 6 signatures on a document, and, if we can't get the 6 signatures, it can't be done. The city has already taken that step by approving this at council Monday night. Again, the conversation with Ed Oley has already happened, and he is willing to do that. IRG is accepting of it, and it seems like the board members that were there at the South Shore board meeting are accepting of that. The state has the same issue, is that they have to sign off on it. They have to because they are still a party to that agreement.
And then we're the 6th one.
Well, if IRG is a part of it, I would imagine they would have somebody from who's on that board, South Shore's board, actually attend so you could get the approval. You're saying that you don't know if you're going to have enough to take a vote for South Shore, but if IRG has 5 members on it, they should be willing, and they're willing to make this, accept this, they should be willing to send somebody so you could get your.
That's correct.
But they're only one signature, Tom.
Yeah.
There's
That's
6
right.
parties to the agreement.
Yeah.
That's
Us
correct.
being one of 6.
Yeah, I'm just looking at, if we want to be done with this. And Ms. Kokoski, how do you feel about it?
Well, I guess my question is, if we were out of this right now, if we amended it to take ourselves out right now, or we didn't, if we went forward with it, it doesn't change the outcome of the $120,000 for Mercy's money. I mean, it's going to go towards operation regardless of how we go forward with this. So it doesn't change the outcome. So why would we try to complicate things for getting everything done in this developers agreement by trying to change things at the last minute?
It's just making sure that everything's followed up and that at a later time.
It's easier to make sure it's followed up when you're still part of something than when you're looking from the outside.
Well, as far as when I say followed up, I'm saying we're out of it, we're done, instead of have to chase it to be done with this project. My concern is that later, if this developer doesn't work out, and that's why I do have a call in, because I've had conversations. This is the developer that was actually looking at moving to VA back in 2010 before all this hoopla came out as far as we're going to save St. Joe's, to find out where we were going with it. And what I mean by hoopla on this, it was basically, we have a plan, we're going to do it, we're going to follow the same plan that we followed for the last decade, and nothing ever came about it. So you followed the same plan, same playbook. It's kind of like the Browns. Well, you know what they're going to run before they even run it, and that's the case with St. Joe's. But I would like to get more information. I'd like to find out from the contractor, too, what his views are on this. And I do have a call in to him to get more information on it. I would be willing to share that with the board once I get his return call.
Well, we're not negotiating with the developer, though. The City of Lorain is in South Shore, correct? Right, so we won't have any party to
Whether
that
the-
action anyway. We don't have any legal standing with whatever negotiation. You'll have with the
Whatever,
developer.
whether the developer is going to do this or not, we're only looking at repurposing that money and providing the US EPA money if and only, if I know that there is, that this has a chance to survive and I have a chance to recoup that money. If this becomes a shutdown, I'm not that interested in exchanging out the dollars.
If we waited for a week, would this make a difference in going forward with working with the developer? Could we wait a week on it?
I
On this-
believe that this could wait a week because
Okay.
we still need to get the other signatures. That we still.
Well, why don't we put this on the agenda for next week so Mr. Williams can get the answers that he's looking for, and we'll go from there. Is that okay?
That would be fine.
Okay.
All right,
That
thank
would
you,
be fine.
Doug.
Thank you.
Can we, I withdraw my motion. Do
I don't think we ever had a motion.
No,
Never
we
had a
had a
motion.
discussion.
Discussion on
We just
it.
brought it
I
up.
brought it for
Okay.
discussion. It never moved.
Okay, we'll just wait for next week on that then. Thank you for coming, Doug.
Under Community Development, advertise for bids for building improvements at Sheffield Lake Joyce Hanks Community Center project. Notice to be in the Chronicle on October 19th and 26th and open at 2 p.m. on November 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Award contract to J. Kilby Enterprises, Inc., North Ridgeville, in the amount of $8,800, which includes a contingency for any unforeseen change orders for Charles and Sherry Chase at 40231 State Route 303, LaGrange, to receive grant assistance for replacement of furnace and air conditioning units. 22 invitations were sent, only 2 received, this being the most responsive, complying with specifications, and will be paid from CDBG home repair account.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Don, I thought looking through here, it had 2 furnaces, and it looked like just a regular split-level house. I can't imagine why it would have 2. And then I think it also had, was it a window air conditioner or
These were
forced air?
2 forced air. It had 2 when the house was originally built, they installed 2 undersized furnaces and 2 undersized air conditioners that are failing. And when we did the testing for them, neither of them were large enough to actually handle the entire house. Why it was designed this way and built this way, we have no idea. And so what we are doing is eliminating both of the furnaces, upsizing to a larger furnace that'll run much more efficiently. We anticipate that we'll be cutting their utility bills by over $100 a month by being able to do this repair for them, which for a low mod income family is very important.
All right, that's what and then we are doing air conditioning also?
This is hopefully our last one. I've been in conversations back and forth with the state. They have it in their RRS. I've got, actually, well, we were sitting back there and you're talking about St. Joe's. You guys actually gave me an idea where I want to, I actually crafted a letter to the state while I was sitting back there requesting that the state of Ohio get away from the RRS and just adopt the revised code of Ohio, the residential code of Ohio. Because right now when we're doing repairs, we have to do this residential standard that the state has adopted, which is essentially a building code. Then we have to also comply with the building code. And bring those 2 together. And the state has been giving a lot of pushback on us altering the RRS. So I figure hopefully I'll be down within a week or so with either a letter for signature or maybe a resolution to urge the state to simplify and to kind of consolidate the rules that we're working under. Because I do know under federal regulation, all you have to do for the home funds is bring a house up to code. And that's a requirement. When you put the money in, though, $1 you're guaranteeing to the federal government, you will bring that house up to code. And this would eliminate a lot of the issues that we've been having in the public perception that we have to deal with when we do things like this.
Air conditioning
And
and-
our hands are tied. In fact,
It's their requirement.
right, it's not ours, it's not something we willingly do. I'm also looking at screen doors, screens over the windows, cabinetry. We want a nice, safe house, and to bring it to that point. And unfortunately, they're making us do a little bit more.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Under Job and Family, authorized purchase service agreement with Irrigation Sales and Service LLC, North Ridgeville, in the amount not to exceed $15,000 for snow plowing and salting for state fiscal year 13, effective November 1st, 2012 through April 30th, 2013. I just can't write 13 yet.
It's okay.
Authorized director to execute on behalf of the Board with prosecutors' approval as to form and amend for changes in service content and increased value.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Under solid waste, approve renewal insurance policy agreement with Chartis for HHW Collection Center in the amount of $10,350, effective October 27, 2012 through October 27, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Under Children's Services, authorize the additions and deletions of personnel to utilize the agency's MasterCard for the year 2012. Said usage is for telephone, gas, and oil, minor vehicle maintenance and emergency repairs of county-owned or leased vehicles in the amount of $2,500 to $20,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Under Domestic Relations, approve request of court funding in the amount of $14,191 from Juvenile Accountability Block Grant for a continuation of Success for Youth program, which provides intensive court supervision and case management to low-functioning youth in the county. There is a catch match required from the county general fund of $1,577.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Under the Recorder, authorize Lorraine County Auditor to continue special fund per Ohio Revised Code, Section 31709 and 317.321, and it's not for increase in fees. By Lorraine County Recorder for the purpose of supplementing equipment needs of the county recorder on an annual basis effective January 1st, 2013, expiring December 31st, 2013, the amount of $3 per recorded document.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Mr. Cortez, County Administrator?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I do have one brief update for you. And I only have one map, so I'm going to ask you to pass this and take a look at it. I think you're aware that the Monster Mutter event is still looking to be in Lorain County, but unfortunately the location they used last time, they found that there was some difficulties with it. While they loved the topography and the beauty of the quarry, it just didn't really meet their needs as fully as they had anticipated when they first did the event. Now, I know they've looked at at least 2 sites in Lorain County, and I, on your behalf, offered up the airport property as a potential solution for them to be able to locate their event there. If you look at that map, you'll see in the orange line would be the area that they would actually run the event in, around inside the property. The purple would be the parking, and the blue would be the staging area that they used. And you can see it will be a very comprehensive 2-day event utilizing most of the property at the airport. We believe we will not be interfering at this point with any of the farming activities, but we're still having those discussions. We may need to talk with the operator to delay a bit of planning, maybe on a small portion of the acreage that's farmed. I believe we're the lead candidate right now for this event in Lorain County. I will tell you, they did meet, the other piece of land was in the city up on the Black River Landing Industrial Park. Not the Black River Landing itself, but the Black River,
okay.
I forget the exact name they use. It's a big parcel up there too, but I'm not sure it offers the excitement and the ability to park and do the things that this parcel does. Should they want to use that one, I don't really want to be in competition because that one up on Colorado is a lot closer to a lot of the amenities in Lorain County. I think the spillover would be greatly enhanced for those entrepreneurs that have eateries and grocery stores and such. Because out where we are, there's not a lot of ability to do those things. I did meet with the individuals. They flew in, and we spent several hours together one morning, and I related to them some of our concerns with the last event. While it was successful, it still didn't provide as much opportunity for Lorain County businesses to participate as originally anticipated. So I shared those concerns, and that we wanted to work on that, and then also what the benefit for the airport was going to be, because we have to shut the airport down for a few days, and we have to work with the FAA on that to be able to do that. It's possible. They are supportive of those activities that generate revenue for the airport in different ways. We're hoping to be able to just close the airport until the evening hours, then open it for fly-ins and so forth, and then close it the next morning so that we don't have it shut down for a complete 48 hours. So we're working out those details. I don't know if we're going to get the event. I don't know any more of the specific details that we still need to develop as we go along. My question now is, looking at that map and what I've given you, are you still interested in staying in the game with working on this?
Well, I mean, yeah, if it's, I mean, I want to keep the event in Lorain County, But if there's a better venue or something that is better for our businesses, because there were issues last year with the Tough Mudder, that it didn't quite do the economics that were expected for the area it was, being held at. The South Amherst merchants and stuff didn't see quite the uptick they thought they would. So if there's a place that would have more economic impact.
Well, I'd like to work this a little bit harder this year with some of the local folks to get them to understand what the advantage are. These folks will give signs out to put at businesses that they're having special events. You can anticipate if we're successful at getting it at the airport and we're able to work out the details with the FAA, the draw area is Cleveland, Columbus, and probably not from Toledo this year because they're doing an event by Detroit. We did pull from Toledo the last time because there was no event in Michigan. So the draw area is going to be a little bit probably tighter than it was last year. But you'll have folks coming up from up Route 58 and 301 through LaGrange, Wellington, possibly up to Grafton, and then of course coming from the east side, I would anticipate that they'll take the 480 extension, which precludes a lot of our businesses from being seen, or the turnpike. Right. The key is going to be to get them to go into more of the urbanized areas so that we have some spillover from their presence here, that they spend some time and some money and visit some of the places in Lorain County. I did check the hotel motel bed tax receipts for the last 3 years, for the months before and after the event, to see what kind of lodging increase there was. There was an increase, but it wasn't what we see in the summertime from those the hotels that relieve the stress on lodging in Sandusky. So I'd like to see that number climb to where it is during the summertime at full occupancy, and work with those hotels and motels and know what's coming. And so I think the Business Bureau did a great job last year. It was a first-time event, and I think there's going to be some lessons learned. If we can capture this and they make the commitment, then we need to start working on how to best position the community. You've got to realize they bring in their own beer vendor, although they do buy the product from a local distributor. They have their own vendor, and so we're kind of locked out of that. They have their own food vendor, so you're a bit locked out of that, although I did discuss the possibility of them working with locals on a kind of like a franchise basis. The good part about the airport location is we have lots of areas we can locate people in and bring out locals. So there's just a few things. They also, last time they parked at the Ford plant, and they bussed them in. They brought, the parkers were people from Cincinnati. So I discussed the need for them to do more here, with more people here, even if they came in and they used the firm as how to do this, but they hired even from a temp service here locally. That's a couple days of work for our people here in Lorain County, and that's what I'm looking for. So knowing those things from the last event actually are making it a little easier for me to have a discussion with them on your behalf about why we should participate in this and what the benefit to the community is. If people are just going to drive in, run around a track, have a lot of fun, whoop and holler, and then leave, that really doesn't do a whole lot for us. Because there's a lot of stresses on your safety forces, there's more traffic, there's a lot more involvement, and I'd like to see us build a lot of potential for at least a couple days of increased spending in Lorain County, so we stop being a donor county, start being a recipient county. These are the kind of things we need to do, but we need to do them successfully. Tom, you were going to say
No, looking at the numbers, it definitely did see a spike, though, when they were here for that time period. A lot of good things that come up. I know the areas in the city of Amherst, actually, I went to a fundraiser the evening of that event, and you could not find a parking spot in Amherst, which is normally common, but we were actually parking about 2 miles away from our restaurant and walking in. And then having time. So there were some areas that were doing it, the areas closer to the event, they were kind of gridlocked with the traffic, so they didn't see the economic benefit from it. But I would support trying to keep them here.
Perfect.
I think it could grow and hopefully bring more.
Well, anything we can do to get revenue at the airport I'd like us to generate a little bit more revenue from events rather than growing corn. So recognizing that we're letting the FAA know that any revenue generated off of this event at the airport will be used to support airport operations. I hope that's okay with the board too, but that's going to be one of the things the FAA is going to ask. And so, we'll be able to use that money to match other federal monies. And we've been doing a lot of renovation on taxiways out there. And I would encourage you to take a ride out there and see what we've been able to do with very little general fund money. But there's been a lot of improvements on the taxiways and by the hangars. And once again, this is a beautiful piece of land too. I sometimes forget, unless I ride the service roads around the property, what a wonderful piece of property it really is. And it's one of the largest contiguous parcels left in Lorain County.
I'm in favor, Mr. Kaler?
Yeah, I said I was.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you got a unanimous board.
Great.
A little bit of work hopefully will produce a lot of benefit for people in Lorain County to enjoy that event.
Great. Thank you for your support, and that's all I have this morning.
While you're doing your report, can you talk a little bit about transit now that Horseshoe Casino has publicly came out and said that they are chartering a bus service going to and from the casino from our area? Are we going to continue with our?
Well, I spent some significant amount of time Tuesday morning looking over the schedules, the ridership, the timing of the route, generally when people were taking the bus and not. I think that I thought I would have it today in my packet, but I didn't. I wanted to recommend some time changes. I don't know how it's going to stack up, Commissioner. It keeps getting, I don't know that I want to say misreported, but it's not really reported the way I want it to reflect, that we're trying to pay for the service with those people
Right.
that are just taking it because it's easier for them to take the bus to go down and recreate in Cleveland. And there's a lot of people that don't have the ability to make a choice whether they take the bus or drive. Right. They need a demand service, and we're trying to pay for that demand service by using the availability of these other folks. The ridership hasn't generated significantly enough revenue. We're running now in the low 30s to high 40s most days, which isn't terrible, but it's not enough. The advertising revenue starting to come in. They're getting the placards done for the bus. We're about 5 weeks into this, about 6 weeks into this now, and we need to tweak the times a little bit so that we may grab some more of that morning ridership into Cleveland for folks that are working there. The one thing we got to do is, it's taking too long in the morning. The loop is between point A to point B is about 2 hours, and we really need an extra bus in the morning, but I'm trying to do it with limited resources. You're not picking up a lot of park and ride travel because right now the first bus leaves there at about, I want to say about 6 o'clock, 5 to 6, gets you into Cleveland about 6:40. That's pretty early for most people that are taking the bus to go to work in the morning. But the next bus doesn't arrive. I think it's 8:15. I don't have it in front of me because I didn't get the other numbers I was looking for, but I think it's 8:15, which is a little late for most people that may need to be at work. So I'm looking to compress those time periods. And it's taking 2 hours now, and I need to get somebody to look at this, how we can squeeze it down to about an hour and a half. I don't know if we're able to do that. And the original thought was to run 2 buses, but with the limited amount of money that we were given to operate under, we weren't able to put the 2 buses on. I wanted the bus leaving basically every half hour so that we could build the park and ride, the demand ridership. And we haven't been able to do that. So I still think it's too slow for those folks that want to use it as a service rather than drive downtown.
So you'll be back with us with more numbers for next week to?
Well, I can, but I can tell you without being able to speed the route up, which requires an additional bus, which was what we originally proposed, was 2 buses.
Well, why don't we go with that additional bus and see if it's really going to work?
It's the additional cost, Commissioner, and your challenge to me was to keep this as not you personally, but the board, to keep it as inexpensive as possible, and we've been running it real close. I think the extra bus and the extra commitment will get some of that park and ride folks to at least attempt to use it. The comments that I've seen, they haven't been somewhat kind on some of the blogs, but they're saying it's still not convenient enough, and we're not worried enough about those folks rather than the casino riders. I don't really care about the casino riders. I'm trying to get revenue from the casino riders. Now, we lose that revenue from those casino riders, those folks that don't have other alternatives or may choose this form rather than going in and paying for gas and a big parking fee downtown, that's not going to be there for them. There's not enough of them right now as a feeder to provide revenue for this service. So it's a bit of a quandary. I wish the numbers were higher.
What about maybe working out something with RTA where we could drop the individuals off at North Olmsted and have a connection there?
Well, we don't have to even work that out with RTA. They'd be fine with
Well,
that.
I mean, we could do it, but as far as them getting a ticket in order to go through, now I know what you're going to go back. They get funded, so they're not going to want to probably work with us.
Well, years ago, there was some agreements on that. Right now, we can drop people off at the 117th Street transfer point, and they can choose another mode of transportation to finish the rest of the trip. What we ran into was most people just chose to drive to 117th Street, avoid the inner belt traffic and the downtown parking, and just park on West 117th Street. If they're going to get in their car and drive a little bit, they went a little further for the convenience of not having to get on, get off, get on, get off, and they went to 117th Street. That's an improvement. That helps mass transit, Northeast Ohio, so I'm not against that. I was just trying to have us develop a service that was more convenient for the residents, that's all.
I was just curious. I know it's hard to measure this with the presidential race going on with the early voting, but have we seen any type of patterns as more cars parked there for 8 hours, or where people are actually driving to the Board of Election and park to take the bus?
I wish I'd tell you I had somebody to go out there and take a look. I don't.
Just haven't noticed it.
The one thing I did is I called over to Workforce Development yesterday, and I asked to see if we had anybody eligible for a youth work experience, and I wanted to put them on with transit so we could put somebody riding the bus and do a survey and collect data just like you're asking.
Right.
There's been a few cars at the transportation center, one or two.
There's not been many at the board. I've been there a couple of times.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been. And actually, the bus came back full last Tuesday, which was the last day of early voting and registering, and it was a full bus. But, I mean, again, half a dozen cars were in the parking lot, so it didn't hold up, and there were plenty of empty spots there, so it wasn't, I don't know, people are riding together, or they've got people picking them up.
Well, also,
I was talking with some of the riders. They were actually telling me they get dropped off there. They don't
Right.
have the vehicle,
Mhm.
so they use it to get out. Most of them are actually using it to go see family, at least the riders that I spoke to.
I think that it's there. How to get it so it's convenient enough for people to make that decision is what's giving us the most problem, because we don't have enough resources to do
We
that.
don't fund transit properly, so
The
it's hard to build up that ridership.
the people that we want to get, which are the people working, and we have a lot of people. Let's look at the number. 50+% of people are working outside of Lorain County in one way or another. So they're all driving to jobs. There's got to be a lot of park and ride potential out of those folks leaving Lorain County to work. That's why we concentrate on the economy in Northeast Ohio. We are a big part of the economy in Northeast Ohio with people going to work outside of this community. So it's important for us to support regional efforts and to support the core city concept with Cleveland. As much as I hate it, to support Team NEO with Cleveland Plus, those things are very, very important to us. If that many folks are driving out of the county, why are we not providing an excellent park and ride system for them to take mass transit and make another hookup to get to their jobs?
I guess my question is, how many people are out at 50%? how many are actually using Park and Ride right now?
Well, I don't think lots of them. I don't think a lot of them
Yeah,
are.
I think
None of them are in
probably
Lorraine County.
Well, not in Lorain County, but even in Cuyahoga County.
And down in North Olmsted, there's a lot of Lorraine County residents
Right.
using that. And
What's that equal? 5%?
well, I couldn't give you a number. I bet you it's less than that.
Yeah.
But again, once people are driving, if they're driving out of Avon and North Ridgeville, then that corridor down Nagel Road and Jaycox Road, and it's just not congested up by Avon Lake and Avon. It's congested all the way down to North Ridgeville and down to Lorain Road. In the mornings and the afternoons, trying to get up and down those corridors is quite challenging. The traffic dumping out onto 480 through that corner in North Ridgeville is huge, and onto the turnpike. If there was, but once people are in that congestion, once they're driving, lots of them don't choose not to go park somewhere and get out of their cars if it's not convenient. If you're already out by Great Northern Mall, you just turn around the corner from being, in Strongsville and Brunswick and Brook Park and southern ends of Cleveland, so they may just be continuing on to where they work. I'm not saying that we're going to get convince them to stop at a Park and Ride, but if it's closer to their home and they don't drive halfway there to get there, we may capture them. I don't have any data to back that up, Commissioner, other than that other communities have done this successfully and generated this kind of traffic. But I will say this, the other communities also have provided for a revenue stream consistent with the needs for mass transit, and this community has not. Not you.
Right.
Not you as a Board of Commissioners. The community has not. But it's been a long time since we asked the community to do that. And the only time we in recent memory we did that is when we tried to put it in with the sales tax as an issue to convince taxpayers to support that sales tax. It may well be time that we need to look at transit like we look at 911 and the TB and go to the taxpayers with a very small levy request. It doesn't have to be large. If you look at the revenue generated from a .065 for TB, I think that's bringing in mid 400. Is
Out
that
there, 400 would be.
okay? Do you realize what we could do in transit with $400,000?
Turn it into 800?
Maybe we can turn it into $1.2 million, but fare box. It's so without that, it's really hard to do these things. Years ago they got more money and they just put more buses on without a lot of thought to what services were going to be able to be more profitable.
I think we talked about this in the past, and we thought it needed to be community-driven, like David Ashenhurst and people like that are very interested and concerned about the welfare and the future welfare of transit, that they get together and push for it instead of it coming from us, that the ridership would be the one pushing for it. I think that would make a lot of sense.
And remember, no community has a transit system that's self-supporting. None. Not from the biggest to the smallest. And Cuyahoga is just an example of how these things usually are running. They have a 1% sales tax. Many of them have very, very large levies that support them. But no transit is self-supporting. What transit does do, though, it does bring lots of federal dollars to a community.
Right.
All you have to do is look at the hundreds of millions of dollars that's being funneled into Cleveland for the previous project, the Euclid Corridor, the trolley systems from the foundation. It's bringing all this federal money to improve infrastructure so that the bus lines can run on that infrastructure, but at the same time it's improving that community. We're not in that federal fund mix. We're not bringing those dollars here for either transit routes, operating cost and maintenance cost, or improving the routes that those buses take. And that's a missed opportunity in my mind.
Yep, absolutely.
Sorry to be so long about that. I'll bring you some more numbers. I don't know how. We knew those shuttles were probably going to come. I wish they weren't. It just demonstrates one of the problems with casinos in urbanized areas. You see it in Detroit. You see it in Atlantic City. Once the casinos start doing this, they squeeze out the multiplying effect for local communities. They get them onto the casino property, they keep them there, and they don't go anywhere else. And that doesn't do the community any good.
Well, except for Horseshoe, I think they try to get people in the communities for food and things like that, don't they?
Yes.
I haven't been there yet, but,
That's because they're not fully built out yet.
Yeah.
When they're fully
Phase
built.
one.
Yeah,
We'll see
phase
where
one. When
phase
they're
two
fully
goes.
built out, they'll bring them into a sally port, push them in the door, and lock it behind them. And there won't be a lot left for everybody around it. And there's plenty of data out there that substantiates what I'm saying. I'm not just making that up. All you got to do is go look at the inner area around the Detroit casinos and see whether the local businesses there have prospered or suffered, and they have suffered. And that's unfortunate. I wish that the casino wasn't doing this kind of busing and bringing people in, and they would work collaboratively with these local systems to develop solutions for the community.
Detroit's a bad example, though, for real poor leadership there.
What did
Dave
the,
Bing's doing a heck of a job now. He's trying.
there must be a Democrat mayor there. I'm not.
No, it's not
Tony was
that.
the old one that got
Oh, okay.
indicted for everything.
Okay. All
We're
right.
still doing investigations there.
All right. But it would be better if the casino had worked with local community to develop some of those solutions so that everybody could participate in that prosperity, and that doesn't seemingly happen.
No, it's a private company.
Well, I thought government was supposed to run like a private business.
No.
Somebody's got to pass laws that let us. I guarantee you, we'll put them out of business, not the other way around.
That's the problem when you allow government to get involved. They put businesses out.
I'm actually done.
okay.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
Mr. Innes, Assistant County
I
Prosecutor.
have no reports.
Oh,
Wow.
good.
Nobody's
report.
suing us?
That's
Wow.
a good thing. Oh, let's see. I did get an email from Tom Kelly. A couple months ago, I attended a meeting where we have a regional submission for a Homeland Security grant that it was very competitive, and we were going up against Cuyahoga County and all the different area regions, and we actually got the grant, and it's for a laser hazmat analyzer. And what it does, I think I brought it up a couple months ago, and it can like read through an envelope and tell you what's in it, if it's a drug or whatever's in there, they can tell by this laser what it is. So it's something that we'll be able to use in Lorain County and even offer it up to other counties if they would also need that. Yesterday, Commissioner Kalo and Mr. Cortez and myself went to the Journal and talked to them about our TB and our 911 levy. And it was a good conversation, and it was kind of funny. The editor, Tom Skoke, said, well, I only remember one other time, because our TB levy is going to be, we're asking less for the levy as far as what it was before. And he said there was only one other time that anybody ever asked for a reduction. And he couldn't think of it for a while, and finally it was determined that it was our Green Acres facility, or Golden Acres facility.
It was
Yeah.
Golden Acres.
Golden
We-
Acres.
We first asked for a reduction in the 90s,
And then
and then we
elimination.
let the levy expire, and we've been running it as an independent profit center, I want to say since about 1997. So we have not used taxpayers' dollars in all those years to keep the operation running.
Right, so I was pretty impressed that county government seems to be doing a good job as far as trying to figure out ways of doing things better, and that's what we did with our TB clinic and also with the 911. Even though it's a little bit of an increase, we're doing a lot more than we did in the past. Last Wednesday after our commissioners meeting, we had our kind of an open house there, just to congratulate everybody for coming together and working well together, and between our management staff and the employees there and the Board of Commissioners, Mr. Cortez, and everybody, the sheriff, everybody worked really hard to get to that point. And every employee that I spoke to down there last week, everybody had a really positive and grateful attitude, and I was really impressed with all of our employees down there. So I just want to give a shout out, kudos to them. I just wanted to tell you guys, this past Saturday, I was at the beauty shop, my barber shop, and this elderly gentleman, I think his name was Mr. Emmerich, but he watches our commissioners meeting every Saturday, and I think it's Saturday, but anyways, he did not recognize me because I had, foil in my hair, and he's like, that's not you, you're not Kokoski, and I just want to tell him when he's watching the next time that, yes, that was me, even with the foil in my hair, but he had been talking about the lake.
Brentwood.
Brentwood Lake, thank you, I slipped my mind. But he was going on and on. He was very astute, knew exactly what he was talking about, and paid really close attention to what was going on with that whole issue, so it was kind of cute. Just been going to candidates nights and touring dinners, and what else have we been doing here?
You did miss the Tea Party Candidates Breakfast Saturday morning.
Did you go?
Yes, I did.
Did you? No, I missed
They
that.
were very friendly.
Well, I was at my barber appointment.
You probably didn't insult them.
I didn't. I know a lot of them. I mean, we can have different views.
I wrote up on the elevator with this gentleman sitting out in the audience from Johnson Controls. Did you want to bring up anything about what you guys are doing here today? You can come up to this podium if you like. Give you an opportunity.
I don't have any prepared remarks.
That's all right. Just tell us.
But thank you, Commissioner. We've been working through Jim Cortez, and I'm hoping one of my engineers doesn't fall through the ceiling here now because they're crawling through your ductwork.
Okay.
Trying to find out how we can help the county save energy. So we're doing our analysis now. We hope to get back to you and do a presentation probably within 30 days.
Okay. Just state your name, because I didn't.
I'm Ed Cvelbar,
And you're from where?
Johnson Controls.
I know. What city do you live in?
I live in Salem, just south of Youngstown.
Okay. All right.
Let me, if I may,
Sure.
amplify that a second. Before we get a comment that it's about time that we did something like
We've been
this.
doing this.
We've been doing it.
Right.
This is potential another phase. We're looking at some buildings that weren't ripe for opportunity. The last time we did this, it's been several years now. There may be some potential with those buildings now that we couldn't achieve before, and we're going back and taking a look at that. So we're always on top of this. As soon as if somebody reports this, as soon as they say, well, we did that 15 years ago, why didn't you do it? Well,
We did.
We did, but we're doing it once isn't the end point.
Right.
It's simply time now to look at some other issues that we couldn't squeeze our efficiency out of before. So I'm looking forward to seeing this report.
Yeah, and actually, you're doing quite well. I'd like to come in here and tell you, we have a ton of things we can fix, but you're doing a great job maintaining the facilities. Really, probably what we're gonna do is more tweaking and more, maybe implement some technologies that weren't available when you did the last project just a few years ago.
Okay.
We're gonna look at places like the MRDD, things that, where we can try and squeeze out every last dollar for the county.
Now, you're looking at the Board of Elections for us, right?
Yes, we're looking,
The board talked to me about the Board of Elections a few weeks ago, and I think I reported back to you that it was, in my opinion, too late in the season to deal with the roof at the Board of Elections. And timing is good for that, because if we can do something with the energy conservation upgrade with the HVAC units in conjunction with the roof, and also, one of the things I want to talk to you about is maybe some additional insulation in that roof, or additional panels on that roof that will give us some more potential energy savings. So that's going to be in that project arena too. So I just want to let you know that we're not going to be bringing forward anything on the Board of Elections this year until we get this done.
yeah, the nice thing too, and I've already talked to Jim about this, the timing is actually beautiful for the county because there are some demand response payments available today that are unusually high. The electric utilities, I won't get into, and I'm an ex-utility engineer, but they basically said that they're predicting shortages. They will pay customers who can curtail. So we're looking at your facilities, and if it makes sense that we can tune certain things back just for a temporary period of time, say hours, you could get a payment in excess of $100,000 to use as you see fit. And we try to do that in a fashion that doesn't impact your operations. So for example, if we could stage a chiller here in this building, shut it down for 3 hours, then go shut something else down, the temperature might creep up 4 degrees, but for $100,000, and this only happens up to 10 times a year at the most, for $100,000, it's probably gonna be worth it to the county. So-
Mike Challenger's doing good for you?
What's that, Jim?
Mike Challenger, who I put on with you?
Mike's doing great.
Okay.
He's actually sick today, but he actually made arrangements with Dennis to help us out.
Okay,
So yeah, we're quite pleased.
perfect.
And I want to thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
End of my report.
Okay. Well, you covered most of it. The only thing we had was, we did have NOACA this past Friday. Lorain County was, again, in the center of some issues. We're trying to resolve the facility planning area between the French Creek sewage plant, which is basically North Ridgeville, and Avon Lake, where sewers were put in where they weren't supposed to, based on an intern from ODOT doing an approval process. This has been ongoing for 4 or 5 years. Our executive board met and offered to table it in the executive meeting, give a couple more months to work on it, but after discussions with Rangel and Avon before the meeting, I had brought up just moving it forward and let the FPA change, because I think somewhere down the road, I don't know what they're going to work out, but it's causing developers to have to pay double tap-in fees right now. Commissioner Williams followed what was being talked about at the board, and they did move the table, and they gave, I believe, till January. This was your
January.
motion, January, for them to sit down and work something out. Tom and I talked to the Avon and Avon Lake people after the meeting, and I spoke with Mayor Smith this week, and, you know, I guess you had conversations also.
Yeah, I had a conversation with.
That's the
Mayor
end of my
Smith.
reports, you can carry
Oh.
that on. I don't,
And,
you took care of the rest.
Well, after the meeting, we spoke, and you brought up an idea as far as trying to work out maybe some type of financial payment to
Mhm.
North Ridgeville. So I contacted the mayor, gave him the information. He was going to work with his administration, and hopefully we'll be able to sit down, have lunch with it.
Okay.
Ms. Kokoski, since Mr. Caleb brought it up, I was going to invite him to lunch as well, so we could just talk about it. You're more than welcome to join us. I can let you know when that's going to happen. And then we need to reach out to Avon Lake to set something up afterwards. And what I'm hopeful for, and I think you're hopeful too, is that we'll be able to come to some type of resolution.
I actually
but-
think we should all bring them together at one time. We sit down and hash it out, because we don't have this is sort of like the Amherst and Sheffield sewer. We actually don't have any standing in this.
Correct.
Other than representing as NOACA board members, since
Right.
it got tabled for 3 months, to see if they come to some compromise.
Right, so we wouldn't be in any violation of the sunshine law
Correct, it's
on
no
that.
different, so it's
But
another
hopefully we-
secret meeting. They brought that up at the Tea Party thing, you're more about my secret meetings. I said, well, Commissioner Williams, I actually talked yesterday about going to meet with Mayor Gillick and the Avon Lake people. It's not a secret meeting, it's doing our job.
But hopefully we can get that resolved before January, so, and hopefully keep it out of litigation.
Correct.
So, only ones that win in
Are
litigation
lawyers.
are the lawyers, so. What do we have? The Office of the Auditor, they came out with the inside millage estimate revenue comparison. Looks like we're going to lose $632,619 to the general fund. That was budgeted for 2013, so something that we'll have to look at.
Are you gonna bring up the budget director, or no? If you're gonna state the 600,000 loss, I've been meeting with her for a
Well,
week
yeah,
on it.
I was gonna, sorry, looking through my notes.
Oh,
but at least
okay.
Go ahead and come up then. I was just handed, real quick, the Barb Dickel from the Visitors Bureau, her father passed away.
Oh, okay.
So.
Sorry to hear that. Barb's
yeah.
a nice lady.
Great woman and father, many friends, and from Pennsylvania, actually an avid Pittsburgh Steelers fan, which I guess you can't blame him with the way the Browns are playing. So, go ahead, Lisa. On the
Why are you picking on
600.
the Browns? They just won.
And they're only one game behind the Steelers, so.
New ownership?
Yeah,
It's bad.
yeah, you know.
gonna be
Go ahead,
Squirrel
let's go back to the
fans
budget. Can we go back to the budget?
I do love football too, but,
Yeah.
well, the $600,000 loss that the reval has given the general fund, as you're aware, we met with the auditor's office at the beginning of October, and we adjusted some estimated revenues for this year and for next year. And fortunately, the sales tax is seeing quite an uptick. we were able to cover that cut with revenue estimates that we increased for next year. The recorder's doing very well this year on her fees. As I said, sales tax went up. Board of Elections, we upped a little bit. Various accounts between the prosecutor and the sheriff, almost $200,000. I will say I did talk to Craig Snodgrass at the beginning of the week, because I also need to adjust the tax budget to reflect these revenue changes. And he said there's a chance that this $7.6 million may still go down a little bit more. So we may see more of a $600,000 cut.
Okay. Right now, I know we spoke earlier in the year about the deficit for 2013. I know we're going to have a carryover going into it, but you were projecting a deficit for it at the end of 2013, correct?
At the end of 2013?
Yeah. I believe you were projecting around $1 million.
Well, I mean, that was probably back in March, and since then, sales tax has come up. I mean, our estimated revenue for next year right now is at $44 million. We're estimating close to a $9 million carryover. Now, that depends on how things, we still don't know what local government's going to change to. We're losing close to
But as far as
$1 million next year.
Right, revenue coming in, projected for next year with the unknowns.
Right.
And then maintaining our budget of this year. What are we looking at for at the end of 2000? Are we looking at a carryover going into 2014 or not?
I think we're always going to have some kind of a carryover.
Okay.
Will it be as high as what we're anticipating carrying over next year? That I don't know. I would probably have to say not as high, but we always have a carryover.
Yeah, there's always unspent funds through the budget.
Always.
Well, no, I'm just asking you the revenue coming in, and that because when we spoke earlier in the year, again, you were thinking that it would be a deficit. So.
Well, I think we could, basically, I meet with Lisa 2, 3, 4 times a week, calling her when I'm following the numbers, is that, we could see a deficit of $1 million possibly. Could be higher than that. We just got to see what the revenues peak through the rest of the year, but with the $44 million and approximately $9 million carryover, that's a $53 million for expenditures next year. Our expenditures this year were...
Our budget this year is a little bit over 52.
Right. So, but we have increased health care costs, and if that number trickles down or sales tax falls off, Jim, you're looking sort of sideways. I'm going by the auditor's recent numbers. So.
I think you're both right, depending on how you look at the issue.
Right.
But recognizing that there's probably going to be $600,000 of increased healthcare costs next year that we have yet to capture. There's going to be, I can tell you right now, these union contracts are not going to be like they were the last 3 years. Those costs have not been recognized or captured. There's a few things that are happening that may.
That's right. So we get between $1 million and $2 million shortfall based on the revenue projections, but we haven't gotten that far with the budgetary hearing starting October 31st. But as of today, the way we stand, without looking forward, other than the health care we know is going to be up, those are numbers we're looking at.
Yeah,
it's a living document, right? They tell me that for 7-8 years
it's
now.
A living document.
Every day.
It's just that
we'll know next week when it changes.
It's just that when I hear that, we're going to be down to $1 million or less, and I start thinking cash flow issues.
Without a doubt. No, I'm not.
And that makes me real nervous because when we get into a potential environment when we have to do short-term borrowing to cover cash flow issues, we're truly on the road to areas we don't want to go to.
And we don't always appropriate all of the money.
Right.
So, no, I'm taking that into account, but being that we've had a good year with the sales tax, more than what we ever expected.
Sales tax has actually, I'm looking at the numbers right in front of me, is now eclipsing the best year we ever had by 500,000. But if you look at the local government monies, they're down. You look at conveyances, although conveyances have now come up to close to the 2008 level, which was still down from 2007.
Correct.
So our biggest problem, and we need to keep telling the people out here when we have a chance, is the interest income that we generated so that we didn't have to ask the taxpayers to reach into their pocket. And that's down from over $8 million to just over $1 million. And
And less for next year, right?
I believe so.
Didn't you, Dan was saying something, moving it down to 900,000 for next year. in
let me put it into terms that people may understand. That's almost a full 0.25%.
Right.
Sales tax. The $600,000, $700,000 difference up until just recently, when the sales tax has been increasing, that's about what we were raising on a 0.25% sales tax. So how do you replace that?
Well,
I've
yeah,
been saying.
I guess what I'm looking at also is we have other expenditures that we're going to hear during the budget. We know the coroner's going to ask for an increase in his budget. The sheriff's going to ask for an increase in his budget as far as even with the vehicles. We know that their vehicles kind of look like the Flintstone vehicles as far as putting plywood down or whatever metal in order to cover the holes in the vehicles. So that's where I'm coming up with the additional revenue loss. But hopefully we will, be in the black by the end of next year. It just seems like
Excuse me, it's not a revenue loss, it's an additional expenditure. That isn't
Well-
accounted for, it's an additional expenditure.
Well, with the revenue loss, though, as far as the local government funds
Yeah.
and that as well, too.
And
So.
no clue what they're gonna do in the next biennial budget. I know the governor has instructed his directors to look at a par budget and a 10% cut budget, even though they're sitting on $500 million in a rainy day fund. so-
Don't worry, if the state can pass any of their expenses on to us, they certainly will do it.
Right, we'll
Okay.
get you, we'll take them, right?
And it's not just this administration, just about every administration's tried to do that,
Well,
so.
and not defending, but I did question on that. I said, if you have this money there, what are you using it for? And what I got, bipartisan people coming back telling me it's going to be going for unemployment, federal debts that they have to pay. They go through, they pay everything. They're left with about $150 million.
We
So,
could use that.
Well, again, you don't
Divide
know-
that by 88 and give it back.
Yeah, exactly, real simple number, man.
I'm sure if you go
We
to
do
the
about $2
townships, they would
million.
say, hey, we would take some of the money that you guys are getting from the casino revenue as well.
Well,
So, I mean, it does play out at all
I
levels.
actually don't care how much money the state's got, as long as they stop putting unfunded mandates on local government. We don't put unfunded mandates on the townships.
Right.
The state has a propensity towards, a history of putting their expenses on to us after they agree to pay for the things. And once people get used to the services, then they don't want to pay for them anymore. And that's caused a lot of areas, not just for us, but if you look at mental health, you look at the MRDDs, you look at all of those areas that that levies are supporting more and more locally, because there's less money coming back from the state to provide for those services that are needed in the communities. And I'm not blaming this administration, I said it's
all
every
levels.
administration
Yeah,
has done
everybody.
that.
Yeah, everyone does it.
Madam Clerk did give you a schedule for proposed budget hearings. I don't know if anybody returned anything to you. Is that what we're going to do?
I said, okay.
Yeah, it's fine
Yeah,
with
I
me.
think I'm got okays today.
Okay, I wasn't aware.
Just now.
Okay.
You're waiting for the
I'm
other
gonna
groups to give
confirm
a
now
deal.
that you guys were okay starting those
Okay.
times and dates, and I will confirm with
All right.
everybody.
Which will start October 30th, 31st, whatever that date is.
Halloween.
October 31st.
Halloween.
We'll start budget
Come
hearings
in our
for the
costumes, yep.
2013 appropriation process.
You usually do. I
I
don't.
know, that's what I'm trying to think about now.
Yeah. Well, Lori can come in with her curlers.
Ted, what
No, not curlers,
what are you going
foil.
to come
Foil.
dressed up as? I think you should dress like Tom, and Tom should dress like you.
I don't know if I can get that thin. On Friday, actually, was it Friday? No. I'm trying to think when we met with Brentwood residents.
I think it was
Thursday
Friday.
afternoon.
Thursday afternoon.
Thursday afternoon, you guys are going.
Yeah, actually, I want to give a thank you to County Engineer Ken Carney while we were down there looking at the lake. There, we have a treatment plant down there. There's some activity going down there, illegal activity. Won't say what, but we're going to put a gate in there, and Ken was supposed to actually get that installed this week. So residents were real pleased about that, and I want to thank Ken for jumping on that to resolve that issue. Brad, I know you got your ears open. People were driving down there, teenagers doing stuff they shouldn't have been doing. So the lake came up with a couple different solutions. It's really going to be up to the residents. They're going to have a meeting, I believe, on the 22nd, they said.
I think that's somewhere in that time frame. I think that's
Yeah.
accurate.
to kind of decide which direction that they want to go in. As far as, do they want to pay, have a tax assessment put on if they want a lake? Do they just want to have a nature walk or nature park down there? What do they want? Hopefully we'll have information on that, and they'll be at the following meeting to let us know. I did contact the Metro Parks, informed them what was going on, and asked them to look into it. And hopefully they will give me a call by the end of the week. Met with a company, and we were talking about the FAA. We may need to bring them in as far as, I was thinking that we could bring a company out to the airport. Their one restriction is that they would need a facility that's 42 feet height. I spoke with Karen Davis. Looks like the height requirement's okay as long as it's not close to the runway and impede traffic. But it's going to be a green, would be a green facility as well. So it could bring in 12 jobs. Early stages of it, but I want to let you know because I'm going to be talking with Jim and Karen Davis as far as getting more information on the airport and if we can put it in there.
The ideal location out by the airport would be to reinvigorate our look at the industrial park area. We're currently farming that, so there'll be possibly some issues there, but the height restrictions will be less outside the fence line, which that's outside the fence line. The thing with the FAA, though, is it's still airport property, even though we've designated it as a industrial park, potential industrial park site, and the gas line's in out there.
What is the enterprise zone?
The enterprise zone is there too.
Correct.
Okay, so you can do tax abatement
Right.
in the enterprise zone. I haven't talked to Commissioner Williams about that yet until there's more information about what this business would look like. The only concern is working with the FAA because they really prefer aviation type businesses on those kind of lands. But given the distress that this community is in, I think they'd be hard pressed if we had an opportunity to tell this community, no, you can't do that.
No, right now I'm working on getting samples for the company so they can go through, do some testing. And
Samples of what?
That I'm not going to bring up.
Oh,
right now.
okay, all right. So
Just
just samples of it.
Yeah, just samples.
Samples.
I didn't think we could do the soil samples.
No, not soil samples, product samples, in order to make sure it's going to work for them, and then hopefully have something maybe end of the year or early into next year. So if it works out well, they would possibly look at bringing their headquarters here too. So
Cool.
Another meeting with residents on Monday. It was regarding the sewer with the Amherst Township. Have you had a chance to contact the Lorain administration and set up a meeting?
I told you the email would go out yesterday. It hasn't left my desk. I got caught up in other stuff. It'll leave this morning when the meeting's over. And I'm requesting that, we have another meeting to discuss the proposed collaboration on starting the process to find the problems. I did tell you I would have that out yesterday, and I was sick Monday and I didn't get it done yesterday, but it'll be out today. I really want them to give us an answer whether they want to partner on that and start that process. That'll still be lengthy. It doesn't, but I don't know that they're agreeable to that yet, and I need to know that before we can move forward.
Actually, Tom, that Christine Winrod sent me an
Yes.
email like last Thursday, email her back what we're doing on it. I assume you're talking with the residents and Neil that we've got Jim handling the negotiations.
Yes. And
Okay, that's where we're doing it. That's what the
Yeah.
board decided, so I
Yeah.
didn't have anything really to respond to her at.
No, I can put a response to her again.
Okay,
on
I mean,
that.
we met with them. I'm
Yeah.
assuming she knows what we're doing from what the board's action was.
Yeah, we gave the information. I told her that we were just basically waiting for a meeting with the administration of the City of Lorain. And I believe that's it. So as soon as you get that to me.
It'll be there after the meeting.
Okay.
I'm hoping to get a response. I'm going to force the issue so we get some kind of response to, because it's going to take a little time to get cost data on a proposal.
Right.
I'm going to recommend that we use KE. We're very familiar with them to do that work and get that, so we can get moving quick.
Yeah, I know it's been 3 or 4
McCartney.
weeks since we actually asked for that data. as well. We still haven't received that, so Neil hasn't received it. We actually put another request in for it. So
Okay.
this
Yeah, you looked a little,
K&S, I think, is the one that deal with the City of Lorraine's.
we can use
water
KS,
sewer.
we can use KE, we use KE in all of our sewer stuff,
I know,
so
but they're the ones that are familiar with what's going on with those.
fine, I'm great with Lynn's group, KS is just as good.
KS?
I just want somebody to move, are they using KS over there?
No,
I don't
who's
think so. I think it
the,
was CT is the
CT
people when you went
consultants.
on.
Yes.
CT consultants, I'm
Okay.
sorry. Yeah.
As long as they can move quickly,
Right.
to get into this and get it done. So I'll have more information on that. As far as, I'm sorry, Tom.
No, I was gonna just say if you could also include in that request before we decide that we want to create this partnership, we also need the data too. Because everything is being driven just with them picking numbers out of the air. There's no data.
I'll remind them that they owe Trustee Lynch some information. I thought Corey was pretty forthcoming. I figured that information would come pretty quick. Okay, I'll amplify that for you.
Okay. End of my report.
Tuesday at 11 o'clock will be our investment advisory meeting. Board correspondence?
I move the reading be waived.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Public comment?
Public comment, anybody wishing to address the board?
Even David looks bored.
Yeah. Wake up, David. Seeing none, I move that we go into executive session as outlined by the county administrator.
Second.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Or Mr. Williams? Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
This has been a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at 9:30 at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings, and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments to see the Commissioners page, then click on View Agenda for a printable copy of the agenda.